So what was the reason? What is the cause for these patients? So when we consider suffering, the suffering can be twofold: physical suffering and mental suffering. And nowadays all the illicit drugs, heroin, cocaine, you name it, LSD, but still it was temporary. That is the point the mental suffocation starts. So it is not about food, it is not about cars, it is not about estates, it is about ideas. Physiological barrier and psychological barrier which limits our perception creates our own reality. It's always a proposal, right? If you want, you can do it. If you do not want, you don't have to do it. And there are certain centuries, nothing happens for the entire century. But there are one particular days in civilization, an entire century will happen in a single day. The solution for this, we started from mental suffocation, an eternal solution for the mental component of suffocation in your life. Thank you very much for your past participation. May the Triple Gem bless. Good morning, everyone. Right. Okay. So, first of all, I have to thank you for visiting Sri Lanka. I believe these are the final days of your tour. Is that so? Right. So, how did you find the nature and the cultural things in Sri Lanka? Was it wonderful? How did you? Has any one of you traveled before to Sri Lanka? This is the first time. Right. So, well, if you, since that within the short period that you have traveled, I believe the time is not enough to go into investigate the lifestyle, the livelihood of Sri Lankans. But if you consider the facts available, that you know that 2 years ago, Sri Lanka faced a huge economic crisis, and somehow within a very short term period we managed to overcome that situation. It is a bit strange if you consider the other countries who might have faced the same economic situations where they have gone bankrupt, and sometimes generally that the prediction is it will take about at least 8 years or 10 years to recover from such a situation. And also with the economic crisis there was a huge public revolution as well, and the previous government was toppled. But within short period of time, the people of Sri Lanka, they managed to establish the rule and order and go for a peaceful election and to move for a peaceful transfer of power. So it's a different situation comparing with the limited economic stability and the political and stability. That behavior is somewhat strange. Well, what people find there is the resilience of Sri Lankans. That correct term should be resilience. So we were always celebrated as a very resilient nation. It is due to the fact that the Sri Lankans bear a lot of patience inside. Right? So what was the reason? What is the cause for this patience? Amidst all the economic issues, amidst all the political crises, the people are very resilient due to their patience. And if we were managed purely by the political stability and the economic stability, the situation should be similar as yours back in USA. But unfortunately, due to these issues, there should be a separate thing which will manage the resilience of the public, not law and order, not the economic stability. So what I believe, that is the spirituality of this nation, which for centuries Sri Lankans were spiritual. So then here we are today to discuss that spiritual aspect which underlies everything in this beautiful country, right? So first of all, I would like to pose your question: why do we need spirituality? Why do we have to become spiritual, or why do we have to study something about spirituality? Why? What is the reason for that to exist for millennia? What do you think?
Oh, I think we have to have a common ground of goodness and hope and love and kindness. And you get that from spirituality on hoping for wanting things to be better, to be together, to be kind.
Yes, true enough. That is the necessity of a spirituality in the current context in your country, right? But the initiation of spirituality did not happen because of that. I'm talking about the era where people went on hunting to have something to eat, right? This is about 25,000 or 30,000 years ago, before the civilization, right? There was something in the human existence which is unbearable, which we named it as suffering, right? So when we consider suffering, the suffering can be twofold: physical suffering and mental suffering. For physical suffering, as an example, hunger is a physical suffering. So we have to search for food. So back in good old days, where we were hunting, when we were living in caves, we have to go every day in the morning with the primitive weapons that we had and chase after deers, before the domestication, sheep, goats, buffaloes. They were hunter-gatherers, right? Then they realized, okay, we have a suffering called hunger, physical suffering. Then so to overcome that suffering, we go after our prey. But that process itself is another suffering, because it's not easy to go after wild animals. So then the civilization took another step forward. Then we became nomads. We started to domesticate our prey. So we created flocks of sheep and buffaloes. We started rearing our prey to overcome that physical suffering which created by hunting, the process of hunting. Then later on, the people discovered even this process of nomadic life is suffering. There is physical suffering with that, because you have to go in search of pastures for the animal, go everywhere, right? It's very comfortable to have one particular place and stay. It is the most comfortable way. But here in the nomadic life, it is difficult. So then we go forward another step in human civilization, and we started the agricultural aspect. We started cultivating our food, putting a full stop to the nomadic life. So can you see, to overcome suffering, we have done an enormous level of materialistic change in our day-to-day life. So if we consider the entire civilization, the entire evolution of the human civilization happened due to the simple fact to overcome suffering, the physical aspect of it. Even today, our technology evolves day by day in every aspect, in the aspect of medicine, in the aspect of something else, you name it, right? It is simply because we have to overcome the physical suffering. But there was a huge question afterward. Okay, the physical suffering can be overcome by this kind of materialistic evolution, but a problem remained in the aspect of mental suffering. Irrespective of the fact that the number of sheep that you had in your flock, irrespective of the fact that the extent of estates that you have cultivated, irrespective of the fact that the number of vehicles, SUVs in your fleet, number of condos in your possession, number of partners in your life, this question of mental suffocation was not answered by any materialistic gains. Right? So can you see, in today's context, since you are satisfied with the physical, since you have almost overcome the physical suffocation, when I pose the question, why do we need spirituality? You say that yes, we need loving kindness and get together, but that was not the fundamental need. The fundamental need was to overcome the mental suffering. It is still there, and which is still there. People tried to discover some substance to overcome mental suffering. That is why alcohol and tobacco is there. And nowadays, all the illicit drugs, heroin, cocaine, you name it, LSD, but still it was temporary. It was not a long-lasting solution for mental suffering. So this age-old question was there for centuries. So if you see, the people, the pioneers of all the major religions, if you consider their family backgrounds, they were coming from noble families, from royalty. Why? Their physical suffering was less. They had almost everything that they need to overcome their physical suffocation, but still the mental suffocation existed. When you consider the story of Gautam Buddha, he comes from a royal family in India, Shakya clan. So he had every luxury, materialistic things to overcome his physical suffocation, but not the mental component of it. And the comparative religions like Jainism, if you know the pioneer is Mahavira, he is also from royal family. He is also from a royal family. And I believe we have Catholics or Christians here, right? If you consider Jesus, who was he? Was he from a poor family? Do you think it is? You know, but there are interpretations that, you know, that his father was Joseph and he was a carpenter. That because he was a carpenter, the people tend to think he is poor. But he was not carpenting simply chairs and tables. He was a ship maker. He was creating shipping boats. In 2000 years ago, a business of a ship maker was not a simple money-making business. And another fact that people think Jesus was poor because he was born in a stable. His mother and father they were compelled to spend that night in Bethlehem in a stable because they couldn't find a better place. They had money. Why couldn't they find a better place? That time, the king wanted to do a census. So everyone was asked to move on to their born village. So Joseph's village was Bethlehem. So everyone who started their life at Bethlehem and who scattered all over the country had to return back to Bethlehem. Therefore, all the motels, hotels and 5-star places were already booked. That is why they couldn't find a place. So you have to read the history carefully. Jesus was not from a poor family. He was from a noble family. That is why the very reason, if you study the Bible, there is a point he goes to a Jewish church and he delivers a sermon. A person from a poor family, a person from a non-noble family cannot deliver a sermon in a Jewish church. You can't do that. Right? So almost all the pioneers of ancient philosophical, religious philosophies, they came from noble families. Why? Their physical suffocation was not a matter for them. But the mental suffocation was. So Gautam Buddha was in a quest for an answer for this mental suffocation. Then he found it. Now here we are today to discuss what he found. Right? So I will start with an example to elaborate what he found. Right? I have a thick paintbrush and I have a paint bucket, a flow paint bucket. I dip my brush to the bucket and I draw a number in front of me on the floor, which you can see. I draw number 6 on the floor. And I say it is 6. But what do you say?
9.
You would say 9. But I will repeat, no, it is number 6. But still, it is 9 for you. Now what happens if I want to convince you, no, it is not 9, it is 6. I want you to believe what I believe, but still you do not. Then what will happen to my mind? And on the other hand, you want to believe your reality and to compel me to believe that it is number 9. What will happen to your mind? That is the point the mental suffocation starts. So it is not about food, it is not about cars, it is not about estates, it is about ideas. It is about a concept. Mental suffocation is all about a concept. And the concept depends on the reality. Whose reality? Yours reality. Am I wrong to say it is number 6? No. On my perspective, based on my reality, it is number 6. But on your perspective, on your reality, it is number 9. You also right, I am also right. But relative to my reality, you are wrong. Relative to your reality, I am wrong. That is what Gautam Buddha found. We all have our own realities. Though we believe that we are all gathered here in a nun's monastery in Galle and you are sitting there, I am sitting here and we are having a wonderful discussion and we feel it as one single reality, but it is not. I perceive you on my angle, you perceive me from your angle. So, though we believe that we all dwell in one single earth, that is not the case. There are about 20 people here. We dwell in 20 different planets. So, disagreement between two parties means it is not simply a disagreement between two individuals. It is a planetary war. It is not simple. It is way dangerous than a nuclear war. Two planets are colliding. Can you see? So, if you do not know, if you are unaware that the fact that you are stuck in one reality and it is different from the realities of the rest of the world, that is called ignorance. That ignorance is the fact which creates mental suffering. So, Buddha proposed everyone to get enlightened on the fact that we are in our own realities. The reality that we perceive as one single reality is an illusion. It is an illusion. That is the concept of Maya. It is an illusion. So, we live in an illusion. Can you see? If you can realize this simple fact in your lifetime, thereafter, you don't need LSD to overcome your mental suffocation. You don't need alcohol to overcome your mental suffocation. The mental suffocation is totally gone. For physical suffocation, you cannot eradicate it totally. You may satisfy with a full meal today, but next day you will think that we have something better than that. You may satisfy with a BMW today, but tomorrow you will think, no, a Tesla would be better for me. Right? Not good? Is that so? Very bad example, since I don't drive. Right? But on the topic of mental suffocation, it is not like that. If you realize that simple thing which I explained now, number 6 and number 9, in every moment you faced a conflict in your life, if you can recall that example, this is my perspective of this point, and that is hers, and that is his perspective of this point, mental suffocation is gone. So then people question Gautam Buddha, what is the reason for these different realities? Why can't we perceive the same reality? Why? Why did they question? Because spirituality is always about investigation. Simply, since I told you that we live in different realities, just don't believe it. If you are a spiritual person, if you are not religious, but a spiritual person, you don't go for dogmas. You have to always question. So this era of 600 BC in India was a very fascinating era. Indian people those days, unlike nowadays, they tend to question everything. I have to give the credit to the ancient Indians. They were questioning Gautam Buddha in the very moment he said, we live in two different realities. They questioned, why do we live in two different realities? Why do you say like that? Then the Buddha explained, it is because of the perception. The perception an individual will have will go through two different screens. Everything that we perceive will go through these two different screens. First screen is a physiological barrier. It's a physiological screen. How do we perceive things physiologically? Eyes, ears, nose, the mouth and the skin. the 5 sensations, right? There are differences and limitations in our eyes, ears, and all these 5 organs. Now you are wearing spectacles and I don't. What happens if you remove spectacles? I don't know, you will see me crooked. Right? So there are limitations to our eyesight. There are limitations to our olfactory sensations. There are limitations to our taste buds. There are limitations to our skin. Right? You know, it is different from one individual to the other and one species to the other. The bats, they can hear way beyond. The dogs, they can see way beyond. The cats, they can see in the night. They have night vision, but we don't. So when a cat say in the night that I can see a person and we say we don't, 2 different realities. So our reality, our perception is limited first and foremost because of the physical barriers that we have, the physical screen. The second one is a psychological screen, the data that we have. Now how do you understand what I speak? Because you have the English vocabulary inside you. But if I start to speak in Sinhala hereafter, would you understand? Why? I still speak a language. Why can't you understand? Simply because of the fact that you do not have the data. The Sinhalese vocabulary is not in your possession. That is why they have to go and find me to deliver this lecture. The very reason I am here is I have the enough set of data to convey the message to you in a way that you can understand it. Can you see? Our reality depends on the data that we have. Now I am using a smartphone, you also use a smartphone. Backward, you know that few years back, we all had these phones with buttons. Can you remember the day that you received a smartphone for the first time? Who taught you how to use it? The kids. Why? They had the data on how to use cutting edge technology, but you did not. But now you have. Now you can use it. I still can remember the very first time I was handling a desktop computer, which was huge those days, with the mouse and the cursor, how to point the cursor. That was the most challenging task for anybody in 90s. Right? Can you see what is the reason for that? It is the data that we have. So the data that we have defines our reality. If we do not have enough data to define in front of us, we tend to believe it is that miraculous or something divine or something extraterrestrial or something. Right? So can you see how we create our own realities? Your data set is different from hers and from mine. So the way that you perceive the world using your data set is only limited to your experience. You cannot compel me or her to believe it. So because of these 2 reasons, because of these 2 screens and barriers, physiological barrier and psychological barrier, which limits our perception, creates our own reality. But people are ignorant on the fact that something like that exists. As long as ignorance is there, which is in the Buddhist terminology is called avidya. Avidya. Vidya means enlightened, avidya means non-enlightened, ignorance. Right? Enlightened. The light is when you know that. Darkness is when you do not know that. So it's a simple effort of knowing. To overcome mental suffocation, you have to get to know of what is happening. Where? In our own mind, not anywhere else, not in our neighbor's mind, not in our children's mind, not in the outside world. It is always an inward journey on questioning and investigating what is happening inside me. When I say inside me, not in the body, in the mind. So the whole process of Buddhist spiritual path is an exercise which helps a person, a practitioner, to get to know the mechanism of the human mind, of your own mind. Then the ancient Indians questioned Gautam Buddha, okay, you say that we have to get to know the mind, how do we do that? That is the question that you should also pose. How do you get to know that? Now, if you want to get to know about the distance to Mars, you can simply ask ChatGPT what is the distance to Mars, and it will say something, bullshit, right? There is 100 and odd ways, 1,000 and odd ways to get to know things about the outside world, right? But there is only one way to get to know about the mind. It is not through books. It is not through sermons like this. It is through mindfulness. That is where the practice of mindfulness was initiated by Gautam Buddha. He proposed everyone to be mindful what is happening with you, with your experiences in day-to-day life. When you are mindful, your mind will start to reveal the secrets. This is what is happening. This is what is happening. This is what is happening. The causes for its effects. That is where the cause and effect started. For your responses and reactions for your experiences, what happens in your? What do you mean by life? You encounter experiences, and then you either react or you respond. Right? You either react or you respond. So he proposed, be mindful, if it is possible, for every experience. How do you react? How do you respond? From mind, from words, from actions. Right? Because our mind itself has a quality. Mindfulness is a quality of mind itself. Right? It is not something alien, it is not something magical which you can buy from a shop. Right? It is another quality in our mind which helps you to investigate what happens inside the mind. Right? It is like a muscle. We have muscles in our body. If you want to, have you seen these weightlifters? They have put on a lot, they have gained, the muscles, not by fat, right? So they have to, the calf muscles or maybe the biceps and triceps. They have to strengthen the biceps and triceps mainly to lift a weight, right? Now, if I ask you guys to lift about 100 kilos, why can't you lift it? Can you lift it? I don't know. If you can't, why can't you? It is because you have not developed biceps. You have not developed the relevant muscles to do that exercise. There was a guy called Usain Bolt. He was the fastest runner sometimes back. And then, now you also can run, right? If these dogs start to chase you, you can run. But can you run as fast as Usain Bolt? Why? You have not developed the particular relevant muscles for running. You can't do the action because you do not have the muscles developed. So simply, you cannot see your mind. You cannot see what is happening in your mind because you have not developed that particular muscle in the mind. Your mind also has muscles, not only the body. All the emotions are muscles in the mind. Mindfulness is the most important muscle which helps you to see what happens inside. All the other emotions are muscles, Love is a muscle, emotion. It's a mental muscle. Compassion is a mental muscle. There are different spiritual exercises which helps you to develop that particular muscle. There are different avenues to develop different emotions. Now, if someone claims here, I am always angry, and my responses and my reactions are always angry, what do you think? Which muscle that he or she has worked out a lot? Anger. She or he has worked out the anger muscle a lot because of that, he or she is always angry. But if you want to express compassion and loving kindness, then you have to work out. It's a very simple thing. So similarly, the first step is that get to know that my particular muscle is overworked out or not worked out. You have to be mindful first. Unless you don't know that you are angry also. You simply react. You do not know that people are suffering because of your actions. You have no sense because you are not mindful. So the first thing that Buddha proposed people to develop in his spiritual path, to try to work out the mental muscle of mindfulness. Do you understand? So there are different techniques. It's not only meditation, seated meditation. Seated meditation is one way, one exercise which you can do to strengthen, work out mindfulness. You can make any action in your life to strengthen that muscle. Let's say you're a singer. You can use your very profession of singing to develop mindfulness. Let's say you are a cook, you are a chef, you are a dancer. Any activity can be make use of to develop mindfulness. Seated meditation is one, which we are going to talk about today, because this is not a dancing class. If this was a dancing class, I would have introduced mindfulness with dancing. Right? So I will tell you how to be mindful with every action as well, because for some people meditation is difficult. Seated meditation is difficult, right? Now let's say you're a dancer, or let's say you're a chef. Your profession is lawyering, or your profession is an architect, you're an engineer. That is your profession, that you have to do it every day. There is no way out from that, right? So how do I make use of my day-to-day activity, my passion, my profession, a mindfulness activity? The first thing, you have to give yourself fully into it. Now maybe you're complaining, okay, I have to do this now again and again, but tomorrow onwards, if you can get fully involved in cooking, fully involved in dancing, fully involved in treating patients as a doctor, let yourself fully involved into it. That is the very first step of making an action, any activity, a mindfulness thing. And thereafter, after giving your full involvement, you let it happen as usual, and then the circumstances will arise which will trigger different emotions in your mind. Let's say you're a chef. A customer will complain, there is too much oil in your dish. Let's say you're a singer. The audience will shout at you. Then, with that particular circumstance, a different emotion will start to project. At that moment, you observe your mind. Oh, wow, a different emotion. What is the reason for this? What is the reason for this? Why am I getting angry because of an action of another person? Or because of an inaction of another person? Because of a outside stimulus, why am I projecting anger? Then you will realize something interesting like this. It is simply because I had a frame in my mind when I offer a meal to somebody, they should not claim anything bad about it. Because if you cook, sometimes it can go bad, right? But from your mind, you have a frame that whatever I cook, it is edible. However I treat, it is the treatment. However I draw, that is the architecture. From your mind, you have a frame like that. However I sit, that is the way one should sit. However I talk, that is the way everyone should talk. However I respond, that is the same response I should receive. Those are the mental frames inside you. Since you are ignorant, you do not know that it can go two ways. Because your frame can be that, but in reality, when you offer something to eat to somebody, somebody can either say it is edible or it is non-edible. I truly respect your belief, or frame to believe that my thing is edible. But then this is a very diplomatic world. You have to respect that their opinion as well. It can be edible or non-edible. But if you are not mindful, you will not see that I have a frame inside my mind, and because somebody challenged the frame, that is the reason for projection of this anger, nothing else. It is not that because you are bad. You are not bad. It is the mechanism. The chemistry is bad. Your chemistry, your mind has been engineered in such a way to develop strong, steady mental frames. It is not simply an idea now, because if you fasten your frame, if you strengthen your frame, that mental frame will not simply an idea. It becomes an ideology. So always, when you engage in your day-to-day activities, when some circumstance arise and it triggers an emotion inside you, if you can observe the frame which you had, which has been challenged and which has been the reason for this projection of emotion, that is, in that way you can develop mindfulness with every activity in every aspect of your life. It's a very simple thing. Next time when you go angry, when you go crazy, when you go mad, you can shout, because you know that you can't stop it. You have been used to that. You have worked out a lot for that. So, but even after shouting, just observe your mind and see what was the mental frame, what was the ideology I had. I had the idea that he or she should not do like that, or in this world this should happen in my way. But in reality, it can go either way. On that very moment, you will see the peace and calmness is starting to overflow from you. So if you do this, maybe at the beginning, at the inception, you won't be able to figure out all your emotional fluctuations. But over time, when the mindfulness gradually develops with that observation, you will see your mind will become like a scanning machine. Every circumstance, when it surpasses through the mind, every reaction which goes out from the mind, it will be scanned first. You are scanning everything. A distance has been created between yourself and your mind. You are seeing your mind from a distance. Now it is not like that. You have become your mind. You have engulfed your mind. So, wherever your mind takes, you go. Wherever you go, the mind goes. But when you are mindful, that distance will be created. Your mind and yourself, you will see it as two different things. So then you can scan it properly, you can screen it properly. Do you understand? So how do we do this as a meditation practice, seated meditation practice? That is where I propose my exercise. It's always a proposal, right? If you want, you can do it. If you do not want, you don't have to do it. What I propose, now if you can introduce a simple exercise to your day-to-day life. It's kind of an investment where you have been investing for everyone, your kids, your grandkids, your employees, your parents, for everyone, for your neighbors, for your civil society, to the entire world, you are investing. But here I propose you to invest on yourself the very first hour in your day, right after you wake up. The very first thing that you have to do. Why? If not, you will not do it. There is no excuse for you to say, I had this, I had to do this, I was so tired. Because this is right after from a very good night's sleep. Anytime you wake up, the first hour, you invest on yourself. We have 60 minutes. We divide it into 3 parts. 20, 20, 20. First 20 minutes, do some physical exercises and warm up your body, right? Depending on your strength, depending on your health conditions, right? You can engage in something bearable, but at the end of 20 minutes, you need to get yourself warmed up. You know what I mean? It's better if you can sweat also. And it's better if it not be a monotonous exercise. That means if you can run on a treadmill for 20 minutes. Because of your physical conditions, if that is the only thing that you can do, you better do it, right? Rather than getting a heart attack or something different illness. But if you can engage in an exercise which has different types of exercises within that 20 minutes. But after end of 20 minutes, you are warmed up. Now, with that sweaty body, with that warmed up body, you sit somewhere comfortably. You sit somewhere comfortably in any posture that you like. If it is a chair which is comfortable, that's fine, right? But try to keep your spine straight. I mean, it's okay to have a support, but don't use an armchair which you can sleep. It will not be very much effective. It will be effective to sleep. And also, try to keep your face forward, that your chin should be parallel to the floor. Because when you keep your angle like that, if you by any chance fall asleep, your head will tilt down like this. So you can easily recognize that you are falling asleep. Then you can correct your posture and try to manage your sleep. For the next 20 minutes, now I started to explaining about the posture. Try to find out the most comfortable way and try to maintain that posture for the rest of the 20 minutes as much as possible. Right? Gently close your eyes. Do nothing. Simply let your mind to start thinking. You don't have to put much effort, it will start doing that, right? For the first few seconds, you will feel that there is little bit of blankness, nothing comes. But after few seconds, it's like a waterfall. The mind will start to flow thoughts in front of you. The first thought will be about your kids, about your house, about your daily chores. Things will pop up. You create an artificial distance and observe. It's like you are watching a movie. The movie which is created by your mind. You observe that for 20 minutes. You can leave an alarm for 20 minutes and let it ring, so you don't have to worry about the time. You observe that movie for 20 minutes and the final 20 minutes. That is another important thing. Keep a journal. Put the date. Write down the thoughts which came to your mind during the meditation session as much as possible as you can remember. You may not recall everything, but whatever you can remember, write down descriptively, as like you are writing a script for a movie. Now, how come one creates a movie? First, the script will come, right? The script will be given to the director, and the director will go through the script and create the movie. What we do here is a reverse engineering. You first watch the movie and then write down the script. You can do it. It's very simple exercise. Just imagine the last movie that you watched. Can't you write down what happened there if I give you a piece of paper? You can do it, right? Something like happened, Russell Crowe popped up and he said this, the dialogues were like that, right? So we are doing the same exercise here. Only difference is the director is your mind and the theater is your mind and the audience is also yourself, and you are writing down the script afterward. So if you can introduce these 3 different steps, 20-20-20 in your day-to-day life, you will see the rest of the 23 hours, you don't have to worry about mindfulness at all. Naturally, because since you have worked out the muscle, now it has gaining strength to lift the weight that is necessary. Your mind itself will do the rest of the awareness part. Because there is a chemistry. It works according to a chemistry. It doesn't work according to your wishes. Whatever you feed, it will project. So when Gautam Buddha was questioned what to do, he proposed this. There is one beautiful discourse done by Gautam Buddha which is known as Satipatthana Sutra. Google it if you have time. Satipatthana Sutra, which has given different techniques. Different techniques which can be used to develop, strengthen the workout of the muscle of mindfulness. So which I introduce now is one aspect of it, which is known as Chittanupassana. There are 4 types, 4 major categories described in Satipatthana Sutra, starting from Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, Dhammanupassana. Kayanupassana is making use of your body to be mindful. Vedananupassana is making use of the quality of happiness and unhappiness, nature of the mind to be mindful. Chittanupassana is making use of your thoughts to be mindful, which I introduced right now. And Dhammanupassana is making use of rest of the emotions, anger, lust, envy, jealousy, compassion, rest of the emotions to be mindful. It's a very descriptive discourse. The most simple and very easiest way is the Chittanupassana for many people, which we discussed today. Right? So I think now I have described everything, the importance of everything. Do you have any questions as like Indians back old days? Until I take a sip of water. Please, I am more than happy to answer questions.
Life would have been a lot easier if Buddha had written down the number 8.
Number? Number what? I didn't get it.
Number 8.
Ah. True enough. But unfortunately, life is not simple as that. It's very complicated. He's correct. If we can perceive, everyone can perceive the same thing like robots. I don't know, even the robots can perceive from a Chinese manufacturing plants if they can perceive, if we are also like robots, we see everything as everyone else does, life would have been very easier as you suggest. But the nature is very complicated, and it's good that it's complicated. Otherwise, it will be very monotonous. There is no need for you to come to Sri Lanka for a tour, because you have, if it is monotonous, US and Sri Lanka will be the same. But see the difference of these colors. I very much believe the colors, the beautiful colors that you have back in US, in the nature, it's also beautiful. But these colors are also, it's beautiful in a different way. These structures, these faces, these expressions, the way we talk, the way we honk on the road, it's different. It's very colorful. Now, when you go to a Sri Lankan street, but nowadays it's better, but if you go to a street in Chennai or Delhi, now if you find that honking is too much loud and it is very irritating, that means you are expecting everything to be number 8. But let's say if it is also like that, I find it very boring. It's very boring, right? Some dishes should be spicy. Some dishes should be non-spicy. Now, I've been traveling a lot. I mean, relatively, I may not be like yours, but I can say I have traveled nearly 25 countries. Wherever I travel, I try to taste the native food. So, my travel buddies, they always search for rice and curry wherever they go. Then I say, please, you go and have your rice and curry. I want to try the native flavor. So once when I was in some city, maybe in Perth or Adelaide in Australia, you know that the chef who served me the food said that we are the only country who kill our national animal and make a delicacy out of it, and they created a delicacy out of kangaroo tail. Have you tried it? It's a different dish, but you have to try it. When I go to India, I love that country because of the food. My God, your taste buds are like dancing. The different types of ice creams that they have, different flavors. Have you been to India? Yes. It's amazing. So when I go, I can remember when I see something, different flavors of ice cream, I go for the most rarest, something which I can't find somewhere else in the world. So I believe this difference, this diversity is something that has been created by nature for us, for our own enjoyment, for our own pleasure, but simply because of the fact that we do not know how to engineer our mind to make use of it and be happy with it, we are suffering with these differences. But once you realize that we dwell in different planets, our realities are different, you start to embrace a different reality to your life. That means you become a sponge. You can absorb rather than repelling things. You are absorbing everything. Any more questions?
Reality changes as you age too.
Because why? Your senses are depleting or increasing depending on which stage that you are in your aging process. Because if you are in younger days, now certain emotions will start to express with our when we are starting to become adults, right? But when we start to grow old, age, then it starts to deplete. And also we gather experience. Yes, we travel a lot, we gather experience. We know that there's no point of arguing with stupid people. You know, it's always better to say yes, okay, yeah, you're right, rather than arguing. Those are different experiences. You mature with experiences as well. But if you can become mindful, you know, there is a famous saying, I think, by Mao Zedong, This is a Chinese, some politician said, there are certain centuries, nothing happens for the entire century. But there are one particular days in civilization, an entire century will happen in a single day. He was talking about a revolution, right? Right. For centuries there is nothing happens, no evolutionary change in civilization, but there are one particular days in life, something which can happen for a decade or a century can happen within 24 hours. Mindfulness is such a tool which you can comprehensively gather experience and enlighten yourself within a minute, which you can gather throughout your lifetime for 80, 90 years, if you can be mindful for 1 hour. You can gather your experience by yourself, right? No one is putting a dogma or something on your head. You, by investigating with full awareness into your mind, you can gather an experience of millennia in a single second. That is how Gautam Buddha, he became enlightened not in his 80s, he was 35. And Jesus, maybe in his 29, I think, very young. And there are stories in Buddhist scriptures, children at the age of 7, they gathered the experience, the knowledge, the enlightenment at such a young age. They don't have to wait for their 80s or 90s. Because we have everything written inside. You can never write everything which we have here, which we possess here on a book. But everything that we have to know and we ought to know is already here. The only thing is you are not looking at it. Yes.
At what age did you experience enlightenment?
Well, I would say it is a process over a time. From my childhood, I was always questioning what is happening in my mind. No, you might have, but I always dwell with my mind. It happened at very young age. So with the time, I would say it is over time that I get to know that about this thing about reality, different realities. There's no point of challenging other person's reality, and if you embrace that fact, you can absorb other people's reality. It's very interesting when once you can absorb other person's reality, you can get into their reality as well. That is how you can treat people mentally, psychologically. You cannot treat a person psychologically being in your reality and try to treat him or her in her reality. You have to infiltrate their reality. Right? If you develop your mindfulness to a certain extent, you get the ability to infiltrate to your children's reality, to your employees' reality, to your neighbor's reality. Then you will know that you have been stuck in a very small world, It's a very tiny world that you are possessed in. The universe is way larger. Think how many universes are around you. 16, 17, 18 universes, but you are still dwelling in one universe. What's the point?
In the 20-minute segment, the middle one, you said initially it will be blank, and then the word "full" will start. Is the object of the exercise to make that blankness bigger and bigger?
No. Good question. No. The object of that exercise is not to put your mind into one frame. Now, if you think that the blankness should be expanded, then you are framing your mind to the blankness. Now, if you think the thought stream should be elongated, then you are putting to another frame. The vision and the mission here is to be an observer. Whatever happens, you simply observe. It doesn't matter wherever your mind goes. Your mind, if you do it for some time, your mind will reach to different frequencies like samadhis, if you have heard of, like jhanas. Your mind is in a particular frequency, right? But don't think that is the ultimate and the only frequency the mind can be in. Even within the human frequency, you are in a very small frequency, right? Even within the human frequency, there are a lot of extent that you can travel, and there is a frequency beyond the human limits, which is described in the spiritual path. I did not want to introduce you to that aspect, as since this is a very initial stage of spiritual discussion. But if you manage to do the exercise for some time, your mind will surpass the human experience and go into different experiences. Even though you go there, you simply become an observer. Do not expect that experience should be there forever. Then you are in trouble, because you are back again caught up in another different reality. There is no point of being in one reality and getting caught up in another reality. What do we want is to embrace all the realities.
How do you observe in that period of time rather than trying to solve the problem or focus on one thing? You just let your mind go blank.
How do you, can you repeat the question? It was not.
I don't know what I'm asking.
Yeah.
When I've tried this, my mind goes like this, and then I focus, and then I try to solve the problem. How do I step back?
Right. First thing, you say that your mind thinks about problems, and then your mind itself searching for solutions. Why do you want to stop the search of solutions? Because, just remember, whatever the natural process which happens you at this particular moment is a natural phenomenon which is very important for your survival and for your existence. Our mind has a process of recreating events and searching for solutions from within, because it is very important for our survival. If you do not have the capacity to solve things from within, you have to face incidents as a person without any preparedness. The solution making mechanism in the mind there for you to prepare yourself before facing the world. So do not ever try to get rid of qualities of the mind. If your mind is thinking about problems, let it think and observe. We don't want to stop it, because thinking about problems is a must. It is necessary. Otherwise, you will go for dementia. You will forget everything. It's an illness. It's not a well balanced mind. And also thinking about solutions is another mechanism of the mind. If your mind is thinking about solutions, simply let it think about solution and observe the way it thinks. Simply be an observer. I'm telling you, do not try to change any faculties of your mind, because all the faculties are necessary. Even the anger is necessary, for some times. None of the emotions which are there in nature are illnesses or viruses. They are natural, they are there because it is needed. Not all the time though. There are points which you need emotions. So let your mind do whatever he wants, she wants. You simply be an observer, because we want to observe what happens, not to change the chemistry or create a different chemistry. We want to get enlightened on what happens. You understand? Right. Yes.
You mentioned breaking up an hour to 20. What was the last 20 minutes?
Journaling. The second 20 minutes you observe the mind, last 20 minutes you write down the script of the movie you watched. Don't worry about remembering everything. Whatever you can recall, you write down. These steps are very important, because from that you work out this muscle. Involuntarily, even without your knowledge, you are working it out and strengthening all of you have mindfulness, but not strong enough to deal with the life. So I think it's almost 1 hour and 10 minutes. Sumedha, do we have time to do or
maybe like a short one?
Yeah.
Like
right? I will do like this now with the previous groups, since we had a very long discussion here. The previous groups I did a 10 minutes guided meditation, but if I start the guided meditation, we don't have enough time. I will let you experience the exercise which I propose right now. That means that you don't have to do the first 20 minutes rigorous exercises here, but the second 20 minutes, try to sit in a comfortable posture, right? And as I told you, try to place your chin parallel to the floor. Can you? Yes, if it is comfortable to you. I like that spirit. Right? Here, I will say, we'll do something like this. Now, you close your eyes, then you let your mind to flow thoughts and observe it. In the meantime, you will see your mind will suggest to change the posture. Your mind will sometimes say, okay, there is an itching on the face, go and itch it. Don't do it. Your mind will say, there is something in my ear, let's try to take it out. Don't do it. Your mind will say, there is a mosquito, there is an ant running on my feet. Don't do it. Chase it. Your mind will say, it's okay to, just change the leg little bit. Don't do it. So that's why I ask you to start with the most comfortable position possible. Try to find the most comfortable position. Right? Right. Then, now you know what to do. Until I ask you to wake up from the meditation, you simply gently close your eyes. Do not make any body movement, but please breathe. Right? If you want to, with your saliva, take it inside. That's okay. And if you want to cough, please cough. Right? If you want to sneeze, please sneeze. Other than those 4, don't do anything, right? And in the meantime, you will observe your thoughts as well. Be gentle with your mind. Don't force anything. Relax your body and start the meditation, okay? Right, okay. Try to keep it. Until I give you a sound, we'll start the meditation. Chin. Don't change your body. Don't change your posture. Be gentle with your mind. Let it flow and observe. Gently open your eyes. Gently open your eyes. So, did anyone feel like that they changed the position? Something happened with the body? Posture change? So, if something happened like that, a posture change, don't worry. Try to get it back to the ordinary the starting position and continue the meditation. So it's for a beginner, it's very easy if you concentrate on the body posture. I mean, not to be always fully alert, but there is a particular point, the mind will give you the suggestion to change the thing. So in that particular point, be aware of it and don't do it. So then it becomes like a game with the mind. Right? So it will give you the enough drive to meditate for 20 minutes. So in the meantime, the thoughts will come, and sometimes the thought will not come, but you will hear the bird calls, right? Maybe some vehicles approaching. For vipassana, since we are not going to still the mind, we are not going to frame the mind, nothing can disturb a vipassana, that means mindfulness meditator. There is no such thing as a disturbance for mindfulness meditation. Right? Even a dog can bark next to you. Right? Even somebody can do a jazz music next to you. Nothing can disturb it because you simply an observer. You simply observe. That is how you manage to be an observer in the middle of street while all the vehicles are honking next to you. That is the very fascinating thing about mindfulness meditation, because if you are going after stillness meditation, you go for relaxed, calm and quiet places. But here, even though the place is not quiet, calm, you can be mindful. So I believe now you have understood what you have to do. So my proposal is, again, try to at least invest on yourself for some time daily. And I believe you will be able to gather the enough strength to work out your mindfulness and get enlightened about the true nature, about the reality, and try to achieve the solution for this. We started from mental suffocation, an eternal solution for the mental component of suffocation in your life. Thank you very much for your past participation. May the Triple Chain bless.